There has been much discussion with regard to space travel and our concept of space travel. This is interesting because it allows you to look at the current means of space travel and how this means has an impact on our ability to move quickly and to reach areas which we haven't reached before. This also has much to do with our perspective and our perception of what we are dealing with out there. The current nebula theory talks about the importance of gravity, and the theory of relativity looks at the space-time continuum, etc. I am positing that this is wrong. The reason being is that not only is the system that is used to calculate, I wouldn't say incorrect, but correct under certain conditions only, but it does not encompass the position of the entire universe. So what you have is a system which is calculating only light-sensitive areas, so areas where light, or the speed of light, is a factor, but not a greater speed, which is the speed of magnetism, which is infinitely faster. So essentially, when we are moving along and trying to find new planets, we are currently using a system where we are moving away from the center along the same trajectory of our planetary motions. It is clear that the planets are bound by that same system, and therefore it is very difficult to achieve escape velocity in order to leave the solar system, and even at a point to leave the galaxy. The only way we can achieve that is to move in a way parallel or in conjunction with the magnetism of the sun. So in other words, we are using Lorentz force law, which you see operating on Saturn as described in another clip, that the magnetism is north-south. So the charge will be east-west. So if we're looking at a system where the magnetism is perpendicular to the orientation of the poles, as is described in Lorentz force theory, Lorentz force law, then we know that if we're moving along with the magnetic force, instead of moving across, meaning from Earth towards Venus or from Earth towards Pluto along that plane, we need to be looking at traveling upwards and around. Many people have indicated that and described this as a wormhole, meaning that it is a way which allows us to move much faster and to appear and disappear. I wouldn't say that there is no grandiose wormhole, or it's not as scary as it's said, but essentially what I'd like to say that theoretically, traveling at the speed faster than the speed of light doesn't make you appear or disappear, because it is a relative thing. Your speed of vision, the speed, what is blocking the light, the obstacles, etc. So essentially, if you use magnetism, which in many cases is not impeded, then your speed of movement is much faster. So it means where it would take us a year to travel from one place to the next, it would take maybe 10 minutes to travel from that place to the next. So essentially that allows you to call it a wormhole if you want, but it is merely a magnetic stream that you are following that you need to get off at a point So essentially what you would need to do is to have the ability to ride on that stream, similar to what pilots do using the jet stream, using the currents, gaining more velocity, or with what you gain if you're running a vessel moving off the west coast of Africa, which is called the West Atlantic Current, which for a vessel gives you additional speed. What you are using in both of those cases, using the Gulf Stream and also the West Atlantic Current and the other currents available, is using natural law. That cannot be said to be a wormhole, but in relative terms, it is an acceptable position scientifically. As we move through that process, we recognize that our only limitation to movement within that sphere is our ability to have crafts which will be able to absorb the level of energy and transmit the level of energy. So for example, if you're moving away from a north pole of a planet, you would then use a south or an additional north pole in your spacecraft, which will allow you to use the repulsive force of the planet to push you out away from the planet. If you're approaching a southern end of a planet or the sun, you would then add a northern polarity on your spacecraft, which would allow you to move closer to, because of the attractive forces involved, and allow you to travel towards. So essentially what you're using is a magnetic force which allows you to go to and fro without using the energy that we normally understand is available, for example, fossil fuels, etc., nuclear energy, etc. So your focus needs to be on the absorption and the repulsion of the dual polarity system of magnetism that allows you to move throughout space. That cannot be done with Einstein's energy theory only. There needs to be a theory, a new one, that deals with magnetism, such as E is equal to m squared, where you have m for magnetism, the speed of magnetism squared, which has to be calculated in a vacuum. So that assures us that when we see, for example, a black hole, or we understand the speed based on the rate of energy and the mass involved, that we can calculate our movement, which will allow us very quickly to understand the ability to travel in space. So with this system, we can not only deal with the systems that are available currently, but also design new systems that will allow us to efficiently and effectively absorb the systems of power, of energy, and utilize them for the common good of the entire planet. So the focus now for us is to rely less on the systems that we have using engines which use fossil fuels